All right, I'm gonna load up some 223 ammo. And first things first, I had started this process a while back, and just, this is completely my fault. So I had a Rcbs die set and I had a lead die set. And so I was going to size the ammo. These cases have been sitting in this bleacher block for a while. And so I imagine they had gotten, just dust in here from over time. And because I had been shooting the Grendel and things like that, and 6.5 Creedmoor. And so my process, I take the brass, I come over and I'll clean the inside of the neck, run it a few times over the brush, and then I'll use the Lyman, the case dry neck lube, the dry case neck lube, use it. And then on the outside, I'll just give a dab of the Imperial sizing wax. That's what I've always done. It's always worked well. Well, when I went to resize these, I walked through the same process, and it took more resistance than I remembered it taking for the 223. And so I ended up sticking a case on the Rcbs sizing die. I called Rcbs, told them what I did, completely my fault, asked them how, I said, how much would it cost for me to send a die to you if you could remove the case and then, polish it, make sure everything's good to go so it's not gonna, scratch up future casings and things like that. And so the guy said, he said, you send it to us. He said, we'll remove the case and polish it free of charge. He said, that's just part of owning our products. He said, that's what they do. So, so I was happy. I mailed it out on a Saturday, and I live in Alabama. Rcbs is in California. So I mailed it out on Saturday, and it arrived at Rcbs on Monday, and that's USPS. So I was pretty impressed with that. Well, the whole process took 14 days. I sent it out and I got it back at my house. All of that took place in 14 days. So I thought that was pretty impressive. In their note, they, had just written, remove case and polished. And so they sent it back to me. They sent it in just a used 7 mag, just die set box. They probably had, extra. So they sent it back. They cleaned it up. They removed the case. This is the one I had. So they removed the stuck case, they polished the inside. That's the 223 sizing die. And they also included another decapping pin. That's pretty nice to have on hand. They didn't have to do that. So I appreciate that. So I like Rcbs, and my experience with them when I've messed up a die was great. It cost me the price to ship this single die from Alabama to California. And then they paid shipping back to me. So, and then no charge to do all that. So I thought that was great on their end. So I'll buy more Rcbs products in the future for sure. So with that being said, I plan on loading the 62 grain Bucktail hollow point. It's a Hornady bullet. I'm going to use Shooter's World Match Rifle. It's going to be mag length for AR platform, so 226. And I'm going to start off with 25 grains and go 25 and a half and then 26. Max is a little over 26. It's 26 and some change, so I'm not going to go quite to max. I don't really have to with this rifle. So the end goal being shooting these, the 62 grain hollow points, and then this is them shooting these 62 grain hollow points with the intent of taking them and then loading the 62 grain tip TSX and just see if that load correlates to that same weight bullet in a monolithic and a tip TSX, which I feel like that could be easily used for deer hunting. These, the match, the Bucktail hollow points, those, you could easily, kill coyotes, things like that. They're made for more, for punching paper. Once that bullet hits the target, these are not designed to have like a repeatable, once they hit, they're a thin jacket. They're made to be accurate and hit paper. So what they do after that is not necessarily, you can't depend on it being the same thing time and time again. Where those are made to do the exact same thing every time they hit, like a soft target, as far as like a deer or something like, game. Those are designed to do the same thing. So we're going to get to loading up the 62 grain Bucktail hollow points with Shooter's World Match Rifle. Get to loading those up and see how they do, and test out the clean, unstuck, and polished die. see how it goes. All right, so typically what I do, it's hard to do one-handed, but I'll get just a dab. It doesn't take very much at all, just a slice amount. I'll take it and I'll just, you know, kind of rub it right here, just along, not up on the shoulder, but down below it. And I'll take my case, dab it in there, kind of tap off any excess. Got just a slight amount inside. Take it over here to the sizing die. Make sure you set this based on your the die's instruction from the manufacturer. So I've got it set up. And as far as the sizing process, and that's the way it should be. So I had too much resistance when the case necks were, they may have been corroded, but they were just too dirty and ended up hanging a case. So I'll take this and I'll wipe this down and kind of get the excess off, and I'm gonna set it in the bleacher block. All right, to seat the primer, there's several different ways. These are just your small rifle primer, CCIs, number 400. Again, there's several different ways to do it. I still like using the Lee. This is just the Lee turret press. This is what not what I started on, but I used this for a long time. So you just put your primer in. It's got the small primer, charging arm, and then you got the large. And so just, you can get a feel for it. It does a great job. Prime the rest of them. When you're setting up your seating die, your sizing die, any of those dies, make sure you follow the manufacturer's directions, because each manufacturer is going to be a little different. So just make sure you follow those directions whenever you're setting them up, and you should be good to go. And this particular bullet's got a cantilever. You don't necessarily have to load it where the case mouth is on the cantilever. But 226 happens to be just about, I don't know if we can see that cantilever, but 226 happens to be kind of right at that cantilever. So I'm going to go to measure them. Let's see if I can do this. So it's just slightly, it's 2.255. So it's right at 226. So mag length. So finish loading with the rest of these, and I'm gonna crimp them. Only did 9, so. All right, as far as the last step, be crimping. And again, make sure you set up your die, the crimping die, on your manufacturer's directions. It's already set up. I set it up just a second ago. I'll bring it up, just a light touch, because this thing is powerful. Once you get this lever going, this collet in here is very powerful, so it doesn't take a lot of pressure. So I just, real light pressure, I rotate it a quarter turn, and then I give it just a little more light pressure. And it just gives it ever so slight. It just barely shows up. You can see just a faint ring around near the end of the brass, maybe a 1/16 inch there. So it just gives it a faint crimp. With these gas guns on the Sierra manual, the CR manual I have, it talks about that they've had the bullets come out after repeated, you know, if you charge around and you don't fire it, and then you put it back in your mag, the bullet will slightly come forward on the gas guns. And so you don't want that. Just a little bit of crimp will keep them from doing that. You don't have to crush the case, but I crimp all my gas gun stuff and I've had good luck with it. So I'm gonna keep doing it. I didn't show the powder charging part. It's, you know, it's pretty boring. You want it to be repeatable and simple. So I just use the lead powder measure kit. It's very inexpensive. It comes with a kind of a powder charge guide that's a sliding. You can slide it in and out. It tells you the different charge weights and which scoop you need. But it comes with all different scoops for pistol, rifle, all in between. And so it's just very simple to use. And then I use just a Rcbs beam scale. You know, gravity seems like it never fails. It's pretty constant. So that's repeatable, it's simple. So I'll take a scoop and I'll, you know, drop it into the pan here, and then I'll just trickle up to the charge I need. It's pretty simple. It works for me. It's worked for years, and I think it's going to continue to work. These are what the final rounds look like. I've got 25 grains of Shooter's World match rifle, 25.5, and then 26 grains. And I just take a black Sharpie and I write down the charge weight on there, and I just keep them grouped together. I keep them grouped together so whenever I go to shoot, I know which dot I'm shooting at on the 3/4 inch dots. So find something that works for you. I like to keep it as simple as possible. But we'll see how this goes whenever I do get a chance to shoot them. I think they'll do fine. This gun typically shoots just about everything pretty well. So I think it'll go fine. And once again, Rcbs customer service seems like it's second to none. I was very pleased with them. They have great customer service for being, you know, not charging anything at all to remove a stuck case. It was completely my fault, and they polished it up. And I used that size and die on this brass, and this brass is Starline brass. They make very good quality brass. Whenever I've weighed the cases out individually and set them in groups and tried to group them by weight, Starline is very consistent. And as far as their price point, with inflation and everything driving the price up on a lot of things, their brass prices doesn't seem like they've went through the roof like primers and other things have. It seems like they've tried to kind of keep their price point where it's relatively doable for most of us. So I appreciate Starline for that. Thank you, Rcbs, for the great customer service, and hope everyone has a good evening.